Hello and welcome to my retro watches, and yes, we are back on the bench for some more watch repair or watch restoration, whichever way you want to put it. And today I'm working on a Junghans, which is around about 70 to 80 years old. Now, as always with this channel, or more recently on the videos, this is a movement that I've never seen before, never worked on before. So it's going to be surprises along the way, and I like doing that. It's always a challenge to film something for the very first time as well. You see my mistakes as they happen. Now, this watch has been sent in by a gentleman called Bill. He also sent in a 100-year-old Omega, these were both his father's watches. And the Omega has an absolutely fantastic story behind it, and it's a story I've been dying to tell you. However, I've been recording that and I've hit a problem because there is a broken jewel, and it's in a setting that I have not got the tools or the skill set in order to repair, and I need to do it justice. It's 100 years old and I don't want to ruin it by my own hands. So I've reached out to a local professional watchmaker. He's willing to open his workshop after hours. We can have this discussion and maybe he'll take the job on and repair that jewel for me so that I can finish that video, do it justice and bring it to you. So this was the second watch that Bill sent in, and it was also his father's. It's connected to the same story, so I'm going to be a bit backwards really, but I've already filmed this one, so I figured, well, I'll post it up first to at least give you guys some content. So in a moment we'll go to the bench. I'll narrate over the video, and yeah, I think, or I hope you're going to enjoy this one. So please, I'll ask now before we get in to the video, please give it a thumbs up if you like it, of course. That's all I'm ever going to ask. I don't want Patreon memberships. I don't want money. I just want likes. I want to grow the channel. The more people watch my videos, the more people I might inspire. I'm just a regular guy who's interested in watches and watchmaking. And if I can bring more people in to have a go at this, if you are one of those people out there who like the idea of working on watches but are fearful, then, you know, I'm just a regular guy. I've taught myself everything that I do, just got a little bit obsessed. And if I can do it, I think all of you guys can do it. So that's always been the sole aim of this channel, really, is just to try and, well, show you what I do. You see my mistakes as they happen, of course, but equally to bring more people in. So please give it a like. Right, we'll go to the video now. I welcome reading your comments later on, and yes, sit back, get yourself a drink and enjoy the video. Thank you. And here's your first glance up close on this one. It's a cracking 15 jewel movement. You can clearly see two things. One, it's missing the crown. Two, the hands have been reloomed at some point. And there's the movement. It doesn't run, but you can see when I've moved it, the balance is spinning. It's a Junghans 80, that's the caliber. I love any movement that's in gold. It's always rather pleasing to see. Looking at the numerals there as well, they are radium, so I'll have to just be a little bit careful. Always be careful how you handle radium. I'm going to check it as well with the Geiger counter in just a moment. I'm going to first of all just pry off the glass and the bezel so we can get access to getting the movement out. So I filmed this bit afterwards, really, as you can tell. This is using my smart Geiger. It's an app on my phone and a little attachment. It's not particularly precise at all. Do not take much from the readings, but it's telling us at least that it is a little bit hot. I wouldn't be worried. The hands I've tested on their own and they are completely safe, but it's just a guide to say yes, it's got radium, and therefore you just want to handle it a little bit more carefully, because of course you don't want to breathe any of those particles in or ingest them in any way. Now back on track with the strip down, so better take the hands off. I always prefer these hand levers. These are Horatech 2.5mm, always do the job. I've got Presto tools and other tools as well, which I occasionally use, but my preference is always to use these. So just move these two screws, and with a bit of luck the movement is going to drop out, as you can see there. And we'll flip it over and of course take that dial off. With the dial off, if you look closely you can see it glistening. There's oil on the bottom of the dial. I'm putting it in my little container with my nuclear sign. It's a container I use for any radioactive dial. It's a bit of a gimmick really, but here we go. Right, strip down time. Dial washer, then get rid of the hour wheel. Now we need to start on the keyless works, which do look rather, well, pitted, rusted, tarnished, just showing its age really. This is the set-in lever spring we're removing. Minute wheel. And the first and the only pesky spring. So that's the yoke spring. Always can be a bit lively and fly across the room if you're not careful. Just got experience now in handling these things. Now we'll try to, well, decide what I'm going to do, which is try to remove the yoke. But it seemed to be a little bit stuck. We're going to try it with a Rodico. Doesn't work. Now I've got to try and lever it. It's really stuck on for some reason. It still wants to fly away right at the last minute. No obvious signs of rust. There is a bit underneath, look, but not around the hole, but it's clearly what it was stuck on. We can get the sliding clutch out of the way. And again, can you see glistening? There is oil absolutely everywhere on that main plate. This watch is one of those classics. Someone's taken the back off and just poured a load of oil in it, or sprayed some oil in the hope that that is going to free the thing up and make it run. It doesn't, unfortunately. It gets onto the hairspring, usually sticks everything together. But what it does do is well, preserve everything for the years to come, until someone like me comes along and tries to repair it. So just going to pry up the balance. Always got to be a tad careful handling these things. See, I'm trying to pull it, but you can see that it's still engaged. So I just want to move it off. Really don't want to damage that hairspring. So easy to do. Hours and hours to try and repair them, and I have not good success rate. So I take the pallet cock. That's just got one screw, 2 location lugs, all plain sailing so far. Now, as you can see, there's no real power in this movement, just a little bit. It is missing, like I say, the stem and the crown, so it clearly wasn't fully wound. Now we can start, get the crown wheel off. Then that's the opposite thread. And Rodico has come to the rescue just about on there. And you can see again, glistening oil. And now watch very carefully as I make my first really big mistake here, trying to undo that screw. And what have I done? I've sheared it completely, leaving the thread in the arbor. That was an absolute nightmare. It's not the first time I've done it. I'm sure many of you guys have done it too, but it's earth-shattering when it happens. But we'll deal with that in a little while. So carry on stripping it down. This is the click spring, We'll get rid of that, make it safe. Beautiful screws on this one. They're all highly polished at the top. They've got very long heads, as you can see as well. Some care and consideration's gone into making those, I think. To be fair, it's a lovely little calibre. Little watches like this, where they haven't got any day-date complications, are great places to start. The higher jewel count helps really to when rebuilding, because you can locate the pivots a bit easier. They're easy to pick up, these sort of things, and yeah, you can cut your teeth definitely if you're starting out on watches like this. They're fairly simplistic, really. Always follows the same. We'll remove the train here. That's the one that would have had the second hand on. There's the escape. So we just need the bridge now. Unfortunately, my finger decided to obscure. And that gets us to the barrel. And my tweezers are really a bit too fine. I can't pinch that as I'd like. So here's a thicker pair, and they still don't work either. What a surprise. So I resort to removing the setting lever screw instead. Now we'll try it with the Rodico. There you go, it's out. So essentially that's it. The movement is stripped down. Interestingly, 23 scratched onto the bottom there. It's also onto the barrel. Never seen that before. Clearly that's a watchmaker previously. Maybe he was doing a load of these, I don't know. If you've got an idea, leave it in the comments. I'd be interested to know why someone would scratch that number in that position. So now in a pin vise addressing the barrel arbor, and I'm very fortunate, look, you see, I can unscrew the screw, or what's left of it. I've had these before where they stay in, and that can be, well, either alum powder to try and remove it, or you just have to completely replace everything. So I've still got to find a screw for this, but I've saved the hassle of trying to source the barrel arbor. There we go. And trust me, when that happened, I was significantly relieved. So now I'm going to onto the assembly really, and we can start doing some oiling. They're interesting cap jewels, these ones. It sort of floats on the top. It doesn't really seem to sit in its setting. As you'll see here, see how it moves around. See? And trouble with that, of course, is then the oil can be dispersed. And to be fair, I should have used what you call it, Elipalm. I think I've said that wrong. But the next tricky thing is the spring. Not dissimilar to a Seiko spring in some respects. You've got to get these tabs, and with a pair of two tweezers, hold it and control it. I've always got one in the center, as you can see. That's trying to hold it in place. Still not happy. If you're not happy, pull away, come back for another go. So again, hold it in place. Then I've got to try to push that tab down, line it up with that little cutout. And of course, these things are tiny. I mean, what we're looking at there, 2 millimeters, something like that, 2.5 millimeters. So it looks big under the microscope. And the pivots are really, really fine on this. Quite difficult to place. As I will now quite clearly demonstrate. incredibly fine, and there's no sort of location on the jewels. The jewels are just flat with a hole, and just makes life that little bit more tricky. It's even more complex when I know I've got a microscope in the way, and I've also got cameras in the way as well. So we do this dance for a little bit longer, and then hopefully it fits into its position. It's probably ruffled the feathers of all the other ones. A little bit of a 9010 for the centre wheel there. The easiest of all 4 wheels. Now when you're doing this, putting the bridges on, certainly for the first time, these can be particularly tricky, and this is again why I say that using or working on watches that have got good jewel counts as a beginner just means that these are a little bit easier to locate. You can see I'm having lots of trouble with this particular one. And you never want to force anything. If you force it, push it too hard, you're going to bend a pivot, you're going to break a wheel. So it can be frustrating. You can see here, I'm just trying to see if they move, and of course nothing is. It's all jammed up. So it's working out then what wheel is causing the problem. I should be using brass tweezers at this point as well. But there we go. They're now located. You can see them all spinning around. So patience is a virtue you've got to have in this hobby for certain. Quickly in goes the screw. But then I've just remembered that I haven't put the barrel in, which is a bit of a disaster. So D5 at the bottom. I'm going to just try and see if I can squeeze it underneath. And lucky for me it did, because if I had to take that train bridge off again, it would put another 5-10 minutes on the video while I try and relocate it all. Now we can safely screw it down in place. Just test again, make sure. D5 for the setting lever screw. This is an item that you can often miss putting it back if you're not careful, and then you'll put the bridge on, rebuild the movement, and then realise that you've got one screw at the end. And why is that screw left? Because that's where it's supposed to go, and you have to strip it all back down again. Again, I'm sure many of you have been in that position. Bit more D5, and some of that just went on the lip of the hole, but you can forgive me for that. Click spring. This one's pretty straightforward. It's not playing ball at the moment. Some of them can be particularly difficult. As the click itself has a little lug underneath it, which loads onto that spring when the ratchet wheel's on the top and it gets some power. On goes the ratchet wheel, and then you'll find out how I solved the screw issue. In comes a 70s Seiko screw. I've got plenty of these in stock. They are left-handed threads, and to my surprise it fit perfectly. I did try and look for the original screw. I couldn't find one, but when you've got spares, why not? A bit of 1970s magic, but it comes to the rescue, and not for the first time as well. That's happened on a few movements, that those screws have got me out of the mire. Now the crown wheels, I've got to put the washer on. This washer is not playing ball because I'm not actually paying any attention. So I'm going to struggle with this for a few minutes, wondering why it won't fit. And then I'm going to have to remove it because basically it's upside down. You can't tell, it's such a small part. I didn't realise it didn't come off when I stripped the movement down. It was actually still stuck to the crown wheel itself, so I didn't have a reference. But now you can see, look, it just fits nice and flat, no problem at all. Another part that can be quite difficult to locate at times. You can't really fail with the cock. It's got those two location lugs underneath and the screw, so just make it a bit easier. Stick a bit of power in. Yep. And the best part of any rebuild, fitting the balance. This bit never gets old. It's always great to see them turn for the first time. And I've overbanked it slightly, but there we go. It's fired into life, and yeah, that's fantastic. Especially when it's a broken watch, it wasn't running, and now it is. And it's beating quite healthily. I have to quickly get that screw in place. Absolutely magnificent. Really, really pleased. So now got to attempt that jewel as well. Same as the one that was on the main plate. And then if you look at it, it doesn't look right, does it? It's definitely very dirty despite being through the cleaner. You can see the Rodico has already cleaned that white, whatever that white stuff is. So we need to clean that properly. And then once again, a bit of oil in the cup. That's 9010 Mobius. Just flipping that over to the right side. And again, it's floating around. Disaster, really. The way that's moved, I need to re-oil it. For the attempt of the video, I will just persevere, but that will have smudged all the oil all over the place. It's very unusual. They should, well, my experience, they usually just sit nice and the oil you put on sort of has a capillary action, so it does hold it in place. And then we have the same old struggle. Rodico coming to the rescue to get it in position. And Rodico's like our best friend, isn't it? We use it for absolutely everything. It's your get out of jail free card. And sometimes if you clean your Rodico, you'll find parts in there that you lost 2 or 3 movements ago. That screw that eluded you, there it is, hidden away in the Rodico. I've even rolled flat my Rodico on my bench almost with a rolling pin, looking for a shock jewel once, which was in there. And with things like this, it's just patience. And you've got to have a bit of a steady hand, but it's patience, practice, perseverance, and any other letter I can think of beginning with P. And the way I deal with this, I never get frustrated particularly. Just laugh it off, just keep going. It's only you that's making the problem, you know. It's not the watch, it's just your skill. Magnification certainly helps. There we go, we've got 2 in. Once you've got 2 in, stand a good chance. For some of these as well, there are particular tools that you can use to make the job a little bit easier. So 9010 is what I'm using for all of these jewels or pivots. Just a little bit in the cup. And then similar on the underside. That's where the keyless sits. Still not 100% happy, but that's as good as it cleaned up through the cleaner. And I should have pedwooded it beforehand as well, but it's stubborn, and again it's very old, so that tarnish isn't really going to go without trying to treat it with some chemicals. So I put the setting lever back on, bit of D5 for where the cannon pinion is going to sit. D5 for the seconds. Particularly stubborn. Now it's pretty clear from this angle that that cannon pinion isn't right, but on rebuild, from this angle it's obvious, but from my angle I couldn't see that at all. So just carry it on for a little while. So I need to apply plenty of grease onto this one. It is very tarnished, as you can see, but in my view it'll still work. Very high friction area. This is basically the wheel that when you turn the crown will wind the ratchet wheel and ultimately wind the mainspring. It does look pretty dirty, still a bit of rust on it, so I could have probably replaced that, really, the truth be told. So now I'm trying to test, and you can see I'm putting too much force in. I'm back on the cannon pinion, realising that's the mistake, and then finally it hits home there, look. And now it's still, there we go, just catching slightly. When I'm watching these things back and narrating over them, I always think I've over-oiled that, I've over-greased this. But when you're doing it, you can't see it as clear as obviously the cameras can, as close up as well. So I mean, the way I see it as well here, you're in the keyless works, and the keyless works is high friction area. You can get away with over-oiling things down there anyway, because it's not exactly going to end up in any of the critical running components of the watch. And that's the setting lever spring into place. But I'm not happy with that setting lever. If you look closely, you can see that the setting lever keeps moving around over the screw, and that is a major problem. So here's the setting lever close up. It's absolutely awful. It's been through some rust removal treatment as well. However, I just figured I'd try fix it, so I put it in a pin vise and crushed the tube. It's a very long tube on it. As you can see there, it's turned to a square. Put it back in the movement. The screw went tight, so therefore it would work. Now I should change this, and I probably will. It's £20 to buy a new one, so perhaps if this video makes enough revenue, then I will treat it to a replacement setting lever. Right, back to the build. And that's the hour wheel in place. Dial washer. And now we'll just grease the setting lever spring. Everything seems to work. Put the hands back on. Look closely, these hands have actually been thermally blued as well. Someone's done a good job of luming them. I guess that's, well, it's a serviceable item, unless the owner originally requested to have them to glow again. Who knows? Maybe Bill might know something on that, but I would doubt it. It was his father's watch, and this could have been done possibly while he was still quite young. I love sub-dials. Always shows on a vintage watch. Hands are always very easy to fit as well. Just pinch it on a little bit more. And there we have it. It's great to see it tick again. So managed to get a stem and a crown. Got this from Cousins. So I'm just trimming it up. And then I'm going to stone the ends just to get rid of the burr. Now I'm sure there's a set procedure of how to do this. I tend to trim it once, put the crown on, put it in the movement, and then maybe trim it again if I need to. That way I know I get the fit that I want. Some thread locker, just to help, especially on a manual wind watch, which you're going to be using that crown a lot more. Admittedly, when you're turning it, in theory you're turning it to tighten when you're winding, but it's if you're setting the hands. So I want to put it on as tight as I can. Get rid of the excess. Now we can just apply some oil, some D5 I'm using here. This is always the fun time, the fruits of your labour after you've serviced the watch. Is it running any good? Now normally I would have done this before I put the hands on and everything else, but it just looked good from the amplitude. Here it is in dial down position, the least stressful, running absolutely perfectly. However, it doesn't want to pick up an amplitude. That seems to take forever, and it's not even shown in this particular video clip. So we'll turn it now to dial up, and finally the amplitude kicks in, and the accuracy is still remarkably very, very good. But these are, like I say, the safest positions where the balance jewels are sitting nicely, or the pivots are sitting nicely in the jewels. It's when you decide to start testing them, which is what I'm going to do now. And here you can see crown up is, well, it's a bit of a disaster. There's no word to describe the readings we're seeing there. It's minus 25 seconds a day. You can see it's starting to try and level out a little bit. So it is improvement, and if you leave it there longer, it should improve further. But clearly there is some wobble, well, not wobble, there's some wear somewhere. So we've got either end shake or side shake on one of the wheels, I think. And diagnosing that could take me a long time. I'm not skilled enough, I don't think, other than trial and error if I had another movement. And I'm kind of thinking, well, it's 70 years old. It's now minus 15 seconds in that position. That's still pretty decent, isn't it? But let's just try it with crown or pendant down. And as we can see here, it's running off on a downhill ski slope again. So definitely not perfect in those two positions, but I'm still going to call it a win because it was a broken watch, it didn't run, and now it does. That should be addressed. Perhaps if you know what that would be or where I could look for that problem, then again, leave your comments down below. I'm still trying to learn, and sometimes little things like this can annoy you. So look, I mean, all of a sudden we're looking at the readout now and it's going across the middle. So what's that all about? Could that even be something to do with the barrel, perhaps? You know, at a certain time, a certain position, suddenly starts running all right. So yeah, let me know, as a lot of you are much more experienced than I am. Anyway, let's have a look now at the finished watch in all of its glory. Here's the watch outside in the glorious sunshine in the UK. And doesn't the watch look a handsome little thing? I finally found a home for this strap. The strap is by Vario. This is a Harris tweed strap. Vario makes some great straps. I'll leave a link below, actually. I've had this strap for a while, never knew what watch to use it on. It featured in an Omega video quite a while back, but that wasn't my watch, so the strap stayed at home. And I've now found a watch to put it on. I think it looks cracking, suits it well. Debates out on those hands. Do they work, don't they work? It's part of its history. I am not going to take that loom off and try and do some fancy loom with coffee and all the rest of it. I'm going to keep it as it is. However, for a bit of a giggle, here we go. That's the loom shot. And the degradation is a matter of seconds. So this was loomed many decades ago, I feel. A bit of fun. Right, back to the finished watch. And here's the wrist roll. So 7-inch wrist, 18 centimeters, 32mm diameter watch. And I think the size is great. I haven't got a problem with small watches. I think this is lovely, to be honest. Especially when you fixed it by your own hand, makes it all that more special. Well, that's my first venture into Junghans, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. There's a few interesting repairs along the way. Certainly that setting lever. I think a few of you might be frowning at the way I tried to solve that problem, and you'll be screaming for me to go and buy a new setting lever, no doubt. There was a couple of tricks along the way. Obviously finding the stem and the crown as well had to be done. So yes, never straightforward, but always a pleasure. So thanks for coming along and watching this video, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Like I said at the start, please hit the thumbs up. That's really going to help. Subscribe if you haven't already, and many of you have not clicked that bell button, so you don't get alerted when I send a new video out. So please click that, and therefore you won't miss a video that I post. I'm going to put a photo up now. This is Bill and his family. The older gentleman is his father, and we believe in this photograph that he is wearing this Junghans. It looks like it's actually on a bun strap or something like that. So yeah, nice little bit of history. There's going to be more of that story, of course, in the Omega video, but we don't know how long that's going to take. Hopefully the meeting with the watchmaker is going to go well. In the meantime, though, I've got plenty of other projects. I'm going to put my hand in the pot, pull another one out, start filming that one, just in case the Omega takes longer. So if you've enjoyed it, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to see you in another video very soon. Oh, by the way, if you want to support the channel, there is some tool links on my website, myretrowatches.com. You can click on those. They're affiliates. Buy something from there and I will get a small little kickback. If you want to see more of me, then join the Facebook group, Retro and Vintage Watches. There is a link down below. 12,000 members in there now, all talking about watches all day long. It is the friendliest watch place on Facebook by far. You'll get any questions answered very quickly, but come in and join the fun. You don't know what you're missing. You can also follow me on Instagram. On there usually posting once a day of either the watch I'm wearing or the projects I'm working on, and so on and so forth. So I'd like to see you on all the different platforms if you want to follow me. Other than that, definitely see you in the next video. Take care. See you soon. Bye for now.